Alright, so we're here talking 2020 cap this time around because I'm pretty sure I was making cap videos this time of year last year. So here we are again. Although they're in a worse spot this time. Negative $5,443,264 this time. So a shade over negative 5.4. I have three options here. Two I think are decent chance of happening. I kind of have them from most likely to least likely. I have two that I think can happen, and I have one that's kind of like, it's out there, wouldn't expect it, but let's just get brainstorming, kind of one of those. But yeah, proceeding. I don't think there's any way to do this without cutting Xavier Rhodes. I really don't, based off his play off the entire year. He was just not very good. He's not living up to that contract, which those keeping score, he's on the books for a $12.9 million cap hit next season, so that's a no. We can't be doing that. So I think you do have to cut Xavier Rhodes, which actually would cost $4.8 million in dead money. And for those who don't know how dead money works, it's like, I guess if you want to think in more business terms, think of it as like a sunk cost. It's kind of like money you just can't use. But it's kind of, you can designate a player as a June 1st cut, which you get two of those every year, I believe. And what happens when you do that is you can kind of prorate that in half. Cut it in half and spread it over 2 seasons, which I imagine they would do because it's $4.8 million in dead money if Xavier Rhodes is cut. But he is going to get that money no matter what. So yeah, there's that. And Griffin has a weird contract, so don't be too surprised when this pops up in all of them. These are the two constants, Rhodes and Griff. And Griffin, the only way over the cap could do this, this is all per over the cap. It's listed as an option on Spot Track. I can never figure out how to say it. But in over the cap, you have to just straight up say it's a cut. So I don't know if that's working the same way, but it's $800,000 in dead money, which really isn't a lot. Like, you can handle that. You take more for cutting like a 5th round draft pick. So that's really not that big of a deal. And it's a $13.9 million cap hit if left on the roster. So keep that in mind. And cutting these two players alone pretty much gains Minnesota $20 million because they go from negative 5.4 to a little bit over 15.7 in cap space, which is really nice. So those two moves alone get you in the green. And Griffin is a one that I think could definitely come back if, I don't think the bridge is burned just because they say, no, we're not doing this. But don't worry, you can come back. So, yeah. Just want to make sure people know that's... don't get too alarmed on that. But now we already know the first two moves that I would really consider doing. The next one I have is restructure Linval. Linval is at a $12.95 million cap hit, a ton for a nose tackle, and you can actually argue that the run defense did better when he was hurt. So I would think he's kind of on thin ice, and this restructured hit would drop all the way down from that 12.95 he would be on the books for this next season, dropping down to $5.88 million in that same season. So, something I think they should look to be doing. And another one that I'm unsure will be controversial or not. The restructuring of Riley Reef. And I know a lot of people would like to cut Riley Reef. I don't think I'm for that plan, just because I think Elflein being the guard actually made the job a lot harder on both Garrett Bradbury and Riley Reef, because Elflein was really bad in pass protection. And for whatever it's worth, he was, on our line, PFF's top-graded offensive lineman for us. So I know that's kind of a double-edged sword to some people, but that does exist. I don't think you get better than Riley Reef this offseason unless you're getting Trent Williams, though. Because the odds that you're finding a better immediate left tackle at number 25, not very likely. So that's why restructuring Reef is something I would be really keen on doing, just because it is a 13 point, what do I have it here? $13.2 million cap hit here. And it drops all the way down to $8.2 million if it's to be restructured, which is more than workable. And that would, those four moves of Griff, Rhodes, Reef, and restructuring Linval, both of those two, would bring us from negative 5.4 to a little bit over $27.8 million in cap. And I think that's pretty realistic, because you got to make some moves in order to, re-sign people, sign your rookie class, things like that, and potentially go out and sign more other guys. And I think you can do that with 27 mil. Well, nearly 28. Now, option 2 I have is, once again, you're starting at negative 5.4. Cut Rhodes, don't pick up Griff's option. We already know that. I have restructure Reef again. And the new one is actually the cutting of Linval Joseph, just because, once again, you can argue that we did better without him in run defense, and that's kind of why he's there. So if he were to be cut, that's a $2.4 million in dead cap, or like dead money, right? And that's a little bit on the side. But once again, you can designate 2 guys, so there is that. And I do think it's possible to replace Linval, because I don't think he made the biggest difference this year, to be honest. And I think he could be in the restructure, pay cut, or get cut category, potentially, because of how things went, where the run defense was, I guess it was solid, but it wasn't great. I don't think he had his best season, although I do like Linval a lot. This is one of those more business decisions, and I think you might be able to replace him easier than you can replace a left tackle, even though if you were looking at respective positions, I think you would say Linval is probably a better nose tackle than Reef is left tackle. But based off that, there aren't many left tackles that are capable of starting in this league anymore, it doesn't seem like. Reef is actually a solid left tackle, which is weird for some people to hear, but that is actually a very true statement. And I don't think he's elite by far, but he is fine. It's kind of like, you've seen those commercials where people are like, okay is not okay. I kind of feel like that's the approach people are taking with Reef. He's okay. He's okay. He's not great, but he's okay. So I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure you might be able to replace Linval, which is, once again, weird considering things, but he's also on the wrong side of 30 now. He's coming off a knee surgery, and we played the best stretch of run defense without him. The week he came back, they allowed 200 yards to the Seattle Seahawks on the ground. So, and the third one, which I don't anticipate happening at all, but it's a fun one to think about. Cut Rhodes, Griff, I already know it. I have two different restructures. Diggs and Hunter. Just because Diggs is on the books for 14.5, and if restructured it drops down to 6.56, and Hunter is at an even $14 million cap hit, which would drop all the way down to 6.44 if that is restructured. Oh, for option 2, I almost forgot. Cutting Linval and restructuring Linval is pretty much the difference in $4 million, roughly 3, because it's 27.8 for restructuring on that, and then it goes to 31.2 if you go to restructure Reef, cut Linval, cut Rhodes, and Griff. Sorry, this is out of order. But yeah, option 3, start at negative 5.4, cut Rhodes, Griff, already got that. And then restructuring Diggs and Hunter, which, like I said, 14.5 hit from Diggs goes to 6.56. Hunter goes from an even 14 mil to a 6.44 mil. And this would bring a new cap of $31,251,736, which is by far the most of these three options. But I don't view it as it's not likely. The most likely, I still think, is actually the first one, because I don't think they would want to get rid of Linval. And I think Linval might want to stay. I think that's something that might be mutually agreed upon. And Reef is another guy that I feel like I just can't see them cutting him, but I can sure see them restructuring him. I just don't think you can get a better left tackle at 25 immediately, and this is a win now football team, so that's kind of a big deal unless you're trying to pretty much replace his contract with a bigger contract in Trent Williams, and which we're back to the drawing board and all this. So know your comments down below. Liking and subscribing always helps. And until next time, I bid y'all adieu.